Yeah.
Sorry for delaying. I didn't it's pretty on the nose, but if it works, it works, yeah. And it's relevant, so.
No,
I like that.
it was washed out.
I ran it by Yeah, don't want to share the.
That's right.
It's your piece, great. I think so. Except now we're hanging in the intramural office because I showed Jeff and he goes, I'm putting this on the wall. And I was like, okay. So he's like, yeah, you can have it back at the end of the semester.
Yeah. I had to present. Incredible.
Yeah, how did it go?
Natalie watched me nervously go through my slides. And yeah.
Yeah. At least we're like blurry.
Yeah, just a little bit, so nobody knows.
Yeah.
I think I should the way.
The bicycle's over there.
Yeah. Dude.
Thanks, Josh.
Nobody focused on that.
Everyone's up. That's just Josh.
Yeah, this is my story.
Oh my gosh, she didn't bring you for me.
Yeah, Jeremy, what the heck?
This is all I need today. Move along.
Chris, are you ready to go? Girl, I haven't, I've had
Minutes ago,
associates today. I have water.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. We may have a couple people coming in late. Thank you all so much for coming to the Spring 2026 Working Title event. We have 6 amazing readers. I'm so excited to showcase their work for you all. So I just want to give a shout out to my colleague, Dr. Chris Williams, who is running the streaming work over there. If you want, this will be recorded and available on our department webpage, or not on our webpage, on our YouTube page, so you can find it at any time, as well as all the other working titles we've had in case you want to revisit them. So tonight we have Natalie Johnson, Ellie Nessman, Abbey Powers, Josh Reiter, Payton Rhyner, and Professor Tracy Fernandez Rysavy. Before we begin though, I always take a moment to read the UWGB land acknowledgement, so I will do that. We at the University of Wisconsin-Green Bay acknowledge the First Nations people who are the original inhabitants of the region. The Ho-Chunk Nation and the Menominee Nation are the original First people of Wisconsin, and both nations have ancient historical and spiritual connections to the land that our institution now resides upon. Today, Wisconsin is home to 12 First Nations communities, including the United Nation of Wisconsin, Forest County Potawatomi, Ojibwe Nation communities, Stockbridge Munsee Band of the Mohicans, and the Brothertown Indian Nation. We acknowledge the First Nations people of Wisconsin. So we're featuring the readers tonight in alphabetical order by last name. They'll read for about 10 to 12 minutes each, and then at the end we'll have a Q&A where they can answer questions from the audience. So as you're listening, you can think about what questions you might ask them either as a group or individually. So we'll go ahead and get started, and our first reader tonight is Natalie Johnson. Natalie Johnson is currently in her 3rd year at UW-Green Bay, pursuing a bachelor's degree in writing and applied arts. She enjoys writing poetry, abstract short stories, and is currently drafting several fantasy fiction tales. Her favorite topics to write about are the human experience and exploring what we do with what we're given. Please welcome Natalie Johnson.
Hello, everybody. So I've actually got a couple different pieces for you tonight. I'm going to sort of alternate between short stories and poetry, since that's what I tend to write a lot of right now. So we're going to start here with a short story that is actually going to be in the Sheep's Head Review as well. And it's called The Road from Somewhere to Nowhere. If you wander far enough beyond all spaces and times known to your mind, you will find a road. No one quite knows where it leads, nor who built it in the first place, but it is simply called the road from somewhere to nowhere. The road is made of weathered hexagonal stones held together by time and moss and small white flowers that grow within the cracks. It bends and turns through open, lonely land. It is only wide enough to fit two people side by side, one going to somewhere and the other coming from nowhere. The road is meant to be walked alone, so you walk on. Everyone does. There are three things known about the road. The first is that you cannot walk the road, cannot find it even until it calls for you. The second is that when your time on the road ends, nothing about you will be the same. The third is a singular known location that the road goes through, no matter who walks it, no matter what direction you go. The road always runs through halfway. It appears as a towering forest of varied trees partway through their changing their leaves for autumn. In halfway, the sun is always setting or always rising. That depends on how someone sees it. It is impossible to go around halfway. It stretches alongside an otherwise blank landscape for as far as someone is willing to look. And, just like the road, halfway beckons you toward it. Inward, something whispers, go in. You won't know if this call is from the outside or your own mind, but you follow it, walking on. Everyone does. Silence has followed you this far, yet the deeper you go under the canopy, the more you begin to lose its presence. Halfway is not a solitary place. There are creatures there, spirits of confusion and doubt. It starts with one who will greet you and ask your name. It will ask you who you are, and everyone has to answer. Halfway doesn't accept a quiet mind. The greeting creature only asks so it can challenge you. Once you've revealed your identity, halfway whispers in excitement, then goes quiet. There is nothing but the autumn wind to accompany you now. You walk on. Everyone does, pondering their response to the creature all the while. Doubt takes its hold. Questions of what may have been said wrong arise. All who have ever walked through halfway and felt the world go still have thought these same thoughts. What am I? What else could I be? Halfway will provide no answers, so you walk on. Everyone does. The road becomes harder to follow. The creatures brush dirt and fallen leaves over the road to make you walk slower. They don't wish for anyone to be lost. Rather, they create a new way to be found. Everyone walks slower the deeper they get into the woods and within themselves. The questions will continue to pester you in one-verse chance as you dissect every part of your being until there is nothing left at all. You become no one, headed somewhere from nowhere, or perhaps the other way around. Still, you walk on. Everyone does. And then halfway ends. You stand at the edge of a forest and an empty land, not knowing how you got there. The sun or the moon has risen. That depends on you. The road is straight from where you stand. The path is clear. Instead of walking on, you stay there for a few moments, taking in the world with new eyes. For the first time, you see this place as it is. In losing everything to halfway, you have an opportunity, a chance to rebuild yourself, a chance to become the person you've wanted to be. Everyone has that chance, but very few see it before being called to the road. You smile, heart warmed with the possibility of a new life before you. You look up at the road from somewhere to nowhere, at its never-ending horizon. You walk on. And then I've just got a couple selected poems here that I'll just introduce by name and then go into the poems. Still got time, right? Excellent. All right. So this is a poem called Daughter of Light. Daughter of light, don't fight your inner dark. It needs to exist or you'll soon fall apart. Daughter of light, they'll call you a saint for your kindness to others, never seeing the self-hate. Daughter of light, don't give your love for free or else be trapped in embraces that you just want to flee. Daughter of light, light does not last. The world you cannot control makes it a thing of the past. Daughter of light, you're wearing yourself down, trying to please and do it all. Stop now and look around. Daughter of light, it's time for the truth you need to hear. You are me before the breaking, please do not disappear. At last, daughter of gray, embrace your inner dark. It's the only path to healing now that we've come apart. And then the The next one here is called Visions. And just to explain this one, I kind of wrote this specific one half asleep when there was just a little bit of light coming through my window and it was reflecting off of something shiny. So, Visions. There are stars on my arms, tiny spread out scales, like tree blossoms in the wind. They move with the light and encase my arms in constellations, their power seeping into my core. I reach up for more, begging the light to shower my entire body in this wonderful new skin. It builds me into something else and gives me godly insight of a new role I must fulfill. I no longer feel human, I am beyond, I am ethereal. But all things must end, for when I wake in the dark, the light, the miracle, the vision itself is nothing more than a memory. And then I've just got one more poem here. It's not named, but it was written during a rainstorm. The reawakening came gently, like a good rain. I was drenched in newness, brighter, livelier, refreshed. I could hear the bird song just a little clearer and saw the sunlight for the first time in days. I strongly inhaled the scent of my soul being reformed, earthy, filled with water that would nourish me, and rich, cool soil in which to plant my revived roots. They will grow in time into something strong, something tall and magnificent and wild. I can only hope I'll stick around this time to keep watering the seeds. And that is all I have, so thank you very much.
All right, up next we have Ellie Nessman. Ellie Nessman is a senior at UWGB, majoring in writing and applied arts with an emphasis in editing and publishing. For as long as she can remember, she has constantly been daydreaming about characters and worlds, and writing gives her the opportunity for those fantasies to become reality. Although she does not have much experience in sharing her stories, she hopes that the world can see what her mind has to offer the world of fiction. Please welcome Ellie Nessman.
Hello. I wanted to read a chapter from the novel I've been working on for a while called Broken Gold. The chapter is simply just called The Dinner. For a while, all I do is sit in silence. No one comes to visit me except to give me water and sometimes scraps of food. I have no idea how many days have passed. My hair and skin felt so grimy. I've never gone so long without taking a bath or changing my clothes. Not being used to these conditions, I couldn't help but daydream about how simple life was back at home. How I could order heaps of food whenever I wanted. How I could take a warm bubble bath at the end of a long day. And my bed. Oh, how I missed my soft, warm feather bed in my own room. But thinking about all these things only made me hungrier, grimier, and sadder than before. And as the days passed, I started to wonder if anyone was going to rescue me at all. Would they have done it by now? Just as I was starting to wonder if this was to be my life forever, someone came for me one night and freed me of my chains, though they kept the manacles on. You're letting me go? My voice was hoarse from his use. At least it masked my hopefulness. No, the pirate sneered. The captain wants to see you in private. Best come with me. I eyed the gun hanging in his belt and knew it was probably best to come quietly, lest I get killed trying to escape. It felt strange to be out of my small cell, and I did my best not to stumble from my hunger. We headed upstairs to the floor above, which I could only assume was where they fired the cannons during battle, and of another set of stairs that led to a long hallway with several doors on either side. How big was this ship? My escort knocked on the third door to the left. Enter, said a familiar voice. Inside, Captain Flint sat at the other side of a long candlelit table filled with food. Roast beef, vegetables, potatoes, fruit, bottles of wine. There was even a small chocolate cake. My stomach grumbled at the sight of it. Well, come on then. I want to get this over with, Captain Flint sighed. Billy, make sure you're not disturbed. Aye, Captain, Billy said, leaving and shutting the door behind me. Take a seat, Princess. We must talk. Yes, we must, I said, sitting down. I was tired of being captive, tired of waiting for help that did not seem to be coming. I demand that you take me home. Now. Much to my annoyance, he merely laughed. You are in no position to be ordering anyone around. I am the one in charge, not you. He paused for a moment. You know, I am surprised that you can speak English. Do all Thaldians know it, or just royals? It is mainly just the royals. We need it for trade and business purposes with the rest of the realm, I said. Why? Would you rather me speak to you in a Thaldian? Not that you would know what I'm saying anyways. You don't believe so? Captain Flint asked, catching me by surprise. He was fluent and even had a strong accent, although it sounded slightly rough, like those who lived in the lower class district back at home. I'm not proud of it. It makes my mouth feel dirty every time I speak it, he said, seeing the look on my face. Did you bring me here just to slander my people's language? I asked, annoyed. I'll get to the point. He leaned forward in his chair and rested his head on his hands. About 2 weeks ago, I sent a messenger bird to your mother about your ransom, but it has not returned. At this point, we have reason to believe that it may not return anytime soon. I let my eyes drop into my lap. My hands began to fidget nervously. Even Captain Flint had caught on that something was wrong. At least he may not know the reason that was behind it. Here's my proposal, he continued. I looked up at him. You don't want to rot in your cell, and when I think about it, I've decided that you may be a little more useful to me than just being my hostage. And how exactly would you use me? I asked, a bad feeling forming. Would he still think me useful after he learns I have no power? You become a part of my crew, Captain Flint said simply. I stared at him. I didn't hear him right. I must not have heard him right. Had he lost his mind? Me? Join a pirate crew? What in his twisted mind would this even accomplish? Why can't you just let me go? Being a part of your crew would mean that I would be staying here longer, I pointed out. I'm well aware of that, but I never said anything about not wanting you on my ship. A princess with powerful magic. What is your power anyways, princess? He asked suddenly. My mind went blank as his question filled me with dread, the question I prayed he would never ask. What could I even say? If I told him whatever power popped up in my head, he may want proof of it, force me to show him, and then what? But if I told him the truth, that I didn't have any powers, perhaps he wouldn't want me anymore. This could mean he would see me as not worth any ransom and simply kill me. But at this point, it was a risk I was going to have to take. I have no powers, I whispered. What? I have no powers, I said, louder this time. I watched as the blow landed. He looked confused, then to my confusion, he laughed. Laughed. Do you expect me to believe you? You're a member of the Pavara family. Everyone knows of your elder sister's powers, and your younger sister was supposed to get her gift the night of the Lantern Festival, no? Your mother must be keeping your powers secret for a reason. So let's try this again. In a flash, a dagger was in his hand. What is your power? My breathing became shaky at the sight of it. It's the truth. I don't, I stammered. Easy, princess. I'd rather not return damaged goods to your mother if you can't cooperate, Captain Flint said, his voice deadly. It's true. It's the reason why my mother has kept it a secret. It would be embarrassing if the world learned that the magic skipped one of her daughters. It is better for people to think that my gift is dangerous or doesn't help the kingdom very much, unlike my sister's. The crystal didn't give me any magical gift. I was almost shouting towards the end of it. Tears were threatening to spill. It was all out in the open now. I had never told anyone. I was forbidden to. Javier only knew because of the close connection he had to my family. I thought I would feel better once it was out there, but I only felt the true weight of my worthlessness inside. Captain Flint studied me, as if trying to figure out if I was being genuine or not. He still hadn't put the dagger away. I wish I could just go back to my cell. I was finding it really hard not to cry, and he was the last person I wanted to cry in front of. Finally, he said, "You truly don't have any magic?" in a quiet voice. "Truly," I whispered. Anything louder and he might hear the tears. He looked stunned, which I suppose should be a good thing, a sign that he maybe believed me. "But how?" he asked. "How did this crystal not give you any magic? How does your ritual even work?" I was silent for a moment before saying, "That is a family secret that you will never know, but it only works for people in my family's bloodline." Fine, fine, he said, waving me off. "But still, of all the princesses Louis found," he muttered and started rubbing his temples. I didn't need him to finish the sentence. Of all the princesses, he had to capture the one with no magic at all, the most useless one. And suddenly, that uselessness feeling never felt more strong. Maybe I should join his crew. It might be better than going back to a family that constantly ignores me, to sisters that get all the glory and attention while I stand on the sidelines, invisible, forgotten. I was no one at all. Wait, what just went through my mind? Joining him is the last thing I wanted to do. "This is a very interesting development, to say the least," Captain Flint said at last, breaking me from my thoughts. I felt hollow inside. Are you going to kill me now? I asked. Even my voice sounded hollow. Kill you? He echoed, looking at me strangely. Why in the name of Aerie would I kill you? I felt confused by his reaction. Because I have no magic? He chuckled. I don't know if you've noticed, Princess, but no one here has magic either. Except for you, I pointed out. Almost everyone knew about the gift he called Pirate's Rage. It was one of the main reasons why he was the king of pirates and why he was so deadly. Yes, except me, he said. Unfortunately, you don't have any goddess in your corner to help you out. For some reason, his expression darkened at this. Goddess? I questioned. Was he not born with his powers? Never mind, he said. But why bother letting the world know that I kidnapped a powerless princess? The last thing I need is to be made a laughingstock of Ethelgia. Suddenly, the answer to why I wasn't dead was so obvious. I should have seen it coming, really. In a way, he wasn't much different than Mother. So what now? I dared to ask. He was silent for a moment, as if he needed to think about it. Well, I suppose my offer still stands to join the crew, he said slowly. Why? If you hate me and my people so much, why not just kill me? It'd probably be your perfect revenge against them, wouldn't it? I should probably shut up. I don't want to die, but his offer still makes no sense to me. Nothing would please me more. I'm not 100% on board with this either, but due to a special request, here we are, Captain Flint said, looking annoyed. Special request? What do you mean? I asked, even more surprised. That's between me and the crew member, Captain Flint said hastily. So what do you say? Do we have a deal? Do you really expect me to join you after you kidnap me and destroy my home? I said in a voice I was fighting to keep steady. I expect you to make a decision before our little dinner is over. In the meantime, I should enjoy the food. It's getting cold, Captain Flint said, and started to load up his plate. I bit my lip. It didn't seem right to eat the food of my enemy, but it was tempting. So tempting. I couldn't remember the last time I had a decent hot meal instead of the mush they've been feeding me, and who knows when I get to eat like this again. At least I might be properly fed if I do join. I cut off a piece of the roast beef and I was ground at the flood of flavors that filled my mouth. It was all I could do to keep from stuffing myself as fast as possible, but I eat like the princess I was trained to be until I'm satisfied. I have to say, you did surprise me, Captain Flint said suddenly. That night you tried to escape. I didn't think you had it in you. I cleared my throat. Yes, well, I was tired of waiting for someone to save me, so I figured I would try to save myself. You've got spirit, I'll give you that. I will admit we could use someone like you in the crew. Someone like me? I echoed. Someone who thinks for themselves and doesn't rely on others. Someone who can fight, Captain Flint explained. You don't know anything about me. I'm not even half those things, I said somewhat defensively. I could get to know you, should you join, Captain Flint said calmly. And what, I get to know you? My voice was laced with sarcasm. He smiled wearily. You don't want to get to know me, Princess. Trust me on that. I knew he was right, that he's done unspeakable things, and raiding my kingdom was only one of them. Suddenly, Blaze Smith popped into my mind, as if he was the one I wanted to get to know, to try to understand why he looked at me the way he did the night of my pathetic escape attempt. What would it mean if I did join your crew? What would it entail? I asked. You would be at the bottom of the pole, which would just entail cleaning, carrying meals, and helping our cook Josh on all their odd jobs, Captain Flint explained. So like a servant's job? I asked, because what he was describing seemed somewhat similar to what they do in the castle. Yes, I suppose it would be just like a servant's job, Captain Flint said. Why did he seem so annoyed? So what do you say? Will you join my crew? What am I doing? I couldn't help but wonder, but I couldn't sit in that cell forever. It might be easier to try and escape. I'll do it. If he was surprised that I said yes, he didn't show it. Instead, he said, excellent. You'll start tomorrow at dawn and receive more instruction. But there's one thing I want you to know now. Just because you're a crew member, it doesn't entitle you to any special access, such as our rowboats or weapons, for example. If you do think about any form of escape, his dagger appeared again. He fiddled with it as he gave me a pointed look. I nodded in understanding. One wrong move, and I was dead.
All right, up next we have Abbey Powers. Abbey Powers is a graduating senior at UWGB. She primarily writes Gothic horror and literary fiction, occasionally dabbling in poetry. More of her work can be found on her Substack, which is at Abbey Powers 21. Yay, Abby.
Hello. Okay, so I'm gonna read the first chapter of my novel, The Last Good Days,
To pitch it to you in one sentence, it's basically about a group of middle school boys who slowly kind of go insane after they accidentally cause the death of one of their friends. And it's also told in a duo timeline, so this is, I'll just begin with that. I, like many others who had reached my number of years and level of exhaustion, had seen many great and terrible things in life. Not once had I ever seen a ghost. However, the kid who sat in the patchy vinyl seat across from me looked a hell of a lot like my childhood friend, Dean Schultz. He was the wrong age, sure, both too old and too young, a mere coincidence of a person. There were things that were the same, though. The same choppy, crew-cut blonde hair, the same clothes, camouflaged and lived in, the same sharp eyes that tracked every single movement in the room. Dean died when we were 13. I watched it happen. The kid in front of me sat up straighter. He was in college, he'd said, right after he told me a name that I immediately forgot. I didn't want to ask. His eyes were wide, glued on my face. He'd asked me a question, and I hadn't heard. What? As if the growing list of problems in my life hadn't gotten long enough yet, my voice was old. I couldn't project over the heavy swamp cooler that hummed in my open window. I had to try again. What did you say? The kid leaned forward, speaking slower and louder, like I was an imbecile. Hell, I was stuck in a place like this. Perhaps that wasn't so far off from the truth. You're a long way from home, Mr. Hall. Home? Hardly. I'd gone from one prison to another, with brief interludes of almost happiness in between. Are you all right? You don't look comfortable. My forehead was wet. I'd spent every day of the last 10 years down in Louisiana, and I still hadn't gotten used to the heat. Lifting my hand was too much effort this time around, and the nurse that normally stood by my bedside to wipe the sweat from my eyes wasn't there. It dripped in and stung. I blinked, trying to make out the view in front of me. The kid blurred and distorted, his form blending into the yellowed wall behind him. He moved and got me a paper towel, pressing it into my hand. His skin was soft and cool against my own, unscarred and unmarked. He was trying, I'd give him that. For his sake, I sucked it up and wiped the sweat from my eyes. Thanks. This cooler needs some help, he said, moving across the room to the window. Hasn't been cleaned in too long. Your motor's gonna fry out completely if it keeps going like this. I waved a hand in the air. It trembled. The more I looked at the kid, the more uncanny the resemblance grew. My skin crawled. What do you want? Bingo's at 6. It's 2:00, sir. I need time to practice my strategies. I think you just want me to leave you alone. Just tell me what you want. I sat up, my entire body shaking from the exertion. If it was 2, maybe I could get him out of there before the nurse came and gave me my mid-afternoon snack at 3. I like to eat my chia seed pudding alone. It was one of the rituals I refused to let be disturbed. It had been so long since I had had any sort of visitor, and the idea of bending any part of my schedule so late in life soured me. The cracking vinyl let out a long groan as the kid sat back down in his chair. Well, he began, leaning back, settling in. Damn it. If you're looking for financial help with college, speak with Nurse Kathy. I do have funds that I'm willing to donate on the condition that the individuals who get money from me leave me alone. I have never had a student manage to get past Nurse Kathy, and I'm a little bit baffled as to how you did. No, it's not that. He gave a quick shake of his head, the expression on his face almost a grin. Not quite, though. Dean could never commit to a full smile either. I would love the privilege of getting to interview you, Mr. Hall. I want to hear about the events that happened when you were a kid in Sham in 1971. I stared at him. It was bold of him to assume that I was able to forget any of it, let alone something as basic as the year it all happened. Up above, the dusty ceiling fan shut off. The entire nursing home let out a long sigh as it settled. The power had gone out again. A fly buzzed by my ear, high and whining as it circled the room.
I know it's been a long time, but I also think that the media didn't cover it very, get out. What? As much as I wanted him to leave, I despised seeing that level of hurt on the kid's face. My chest tensed. It was only a matter of time before the coughing started up again. I grasped at steadiness. It lay out of my reach. Get out of my room. The kid stood, gathering his notebook and backpack. I'm sorry. I just know there's more to this story, and I'm sure you were silenced by the media and want to talk about what really happened to you. Get out. The kid gave me one last look, and then he was gone. I sank back into my sheets. They were warm and wet, drenched right through like my hospital gown was. Several moments later, one of the nurses, whose name I couldn't remember, rushed in, and the power kicked back on. She smacked the swamp cooler to get it working again. A cold glass of lemonade ended up in my hand. Condensation dripped down my fingers. I tried to bring it to my lips. With an untimely muscle tremor, it spilled. The nurse sighed and picked up the roll of paper towels. Tell Kathy not to let that kid in here again, I said, staring past the nurse to the speckled egg blue ceiling above. The fan's blades spun slow, too slow. I don't want to talk to him. Okay, she said after a long moment. Do you want your pudding? Why do you ask that every single time? Of course I want my pudding. And my bingo sheets. Okay, Mr. Hall. I'll be right back. Sit tight. She didn't need to add that last part. It wasn't like I was going anywhere. After she left, I looked out over the swamp cooler and into the swamp itself. Somehow, moving all the way across the country to a landscape that was the complete opposite of where it hailed from hadn't been enough. My hometown and Dean followed me still. Sometimes you do something wrong and you get away with it. The papers paint you as a hero, and you get a full ride scholarship to Stanford, and then you end up fat and drunk on a yacht somewhere. You think of your old life and your old self, and you consider them both dead. Life has a funny way of proving us wrong. It'll come for you. All things do, in the end.
Okay, up next we have Josh Reiter, they, them, theirs, a graduating senior at UWGB with a double major in studio arts and English with an emphasis in creative writing. They have been a Pride Center intern for the past 3 years on campus and have been an active member of Sigma Tau Delta, the campus's English Honor Society. They are honored to be here tonight to read and share with you one of their short stories they wrote this semester. Please welcome Josh.
Hello, everybody. I hope you all can hear me fine through this mask. Today, I will be reading my third short fiction workshop story that I have written for class. This short story is called I Think, Therefore I Am. I saw the world in its absence, and in it I saw anew. I think, therefore I am. Long ago, and a long time ago indeed, the world had been a wasteland. Sand for miles, iron fragments saturated the ground, and the sun and moon held space in the sky. They teetered between an eternal dawn and eternal dusk until they equalized and days turned into nights. And that cycle, the rain blossomed where it only came once a year. Thunderstorms held commonplace, creating fire, destruction, and abundance equally. All this resulted in the creation of the Coyote Boy. His body is made up of sand, the wind shaping his form. His eyes are made of water, holding memory within them, allowing him to see the world. His soul is made of fire, allowing him to throw passion into everything he saw was just. From him, he created 3 biomes: the outskirts, the Northwoods, and the Southern Isles. In these sectors, he foresaw that animals may be created. They resided in the land, and so did their spirits when they passed on. He could see everything, the living and the dead. Even though he foresaw that this shall be, not all was quiet-minded as he was. The iron in the ground also lived, but the iron desired blood. It foresaw that it would be used to make the guns and bullets cowboys and outlaws used to kill each other with. It foresaw the knives it would be used to draw blood. It saw the flesh that the coyote boy provided it with, so it wanted to make its means for itself. From the ground, the iron dug into the magma buried deep. This melted amalgamation became to be known as copperjack. Bursting from the ground in ash and fire, he caused a massacre that turned the sand from a rustic orange to a dark-stained red. This alone caught the attention of the coyote boy, giving him cause to stop the uprising of corruption. Their fight was grand, causing mountains to form and the earth to quake. In the end, the coyote boy won the fight, but not for long. In a last-ditch attempt, Copperjack ripped through the middle of the coyote boy's body. With his last remaining strength, the coyote boy expelled all the fire from his soul and banished Copperjack back into hell where he belonged. Because of this, the coyote boy lost his soul. His visions and creations became distorted, careless, even dangerous. Monsters now roam the land, and humans were created by his byproduct of such creepy behavior, bastard children of a battle that ripples the very world. How do I know all of this? This is a very complicated question to answer, and I'm not sure how, but here's what I know. Everyone knows the story of the coyote boy, by how he came to be, but no one knew of his faltering grace. I've always had visions. What I mean by visions is that I have seen things, skinned animals that walk around like it's nothing, for multiple days on end, doing the same over and over again. Wild hares that get scooped up and ripped in the air, but not spilling the blood. Coyotes howling at the moon before they get shot, but no gun or hunter in sight. I've watched many people walk through others like it's nothing. Even as a small child, I knew I was connected to something larger than I was tall. I knew I had to dig deeper, and so I did. I studied the behavior of the things, whether dead or alive. I could recognize the spirits of the living and the deceased were not so far off. I remember it clearly when I could finally touch the dead. It was like any other day. The sun beat down on me in my blue dress. I was in a field of nettles far off north. The sun hung high in the sky as a halo formed around her. The wind licked at my hair and the trees swayed as they sang in the wind's command. I took notes of the flowers that grew around, the bugs that chimed in with the choir, the birds that sang their own songs. It was the nature I wanted to find from the sandy deserts of the West. I so then happened to stumble upon a small ditch in the earth, a vixen. Her orange fur was dull against the green grass. Purple, long-stalked flowers grew around her as she lay dying. Her eyes darted up to mine, green as the grass around her. She didn't have the energy to run. She didn't want to fight. She knew that it was her time. I gently knelt down to her, stroking her coarse fur. Her breathing became shallower, and her eyes fluttered as she tried to stay awake. I didn't say anything as she passed, just a peaceful, painless exit from her coil. I gently lifted my hand from her, but what stuck with it was a golden string of light. It stemmed from my fingers and into her body. I could still feel her. She was there. I stared in amazement. This was her. The strings lifted from her body and melded into my very being. I sat for a moment, the wind dying down and the clouds covering the sun. A chill ran over my body as I finally realized the flowers that surrounded her. Foxglove. We never had it back out by the west, a sight for sure. I took a stem of the flowers, placing it in her fur and taking one with myself. Many years later, the foxglove became a flower I wanted to encapsulate as a motto of mine. Things move and things change. I knew I was sort of this change, and the change I sought for a long time until today was to restore the fire inside the coyote boy's soul. We were a byproduct of his slipping mind. I shouldn't even say it slipped. It is fully gone by now. But with everything that I have learned and known, the connection of the souls and the spirits themselves, I think I can finally try to reach out to the coyote boy and end this plague that scourged the world for long enough. Copperjack needs to be rid of once and for all. The night is young and the moon holds high in her throne. Tonight is specifically special as the veil itself is the thinnest, that it has been in a very long time. I live in a small wooden shack right off the border between the west and the northlands. I prepare as I lay down in my bed. The downy feather stuffed blankets rise me into the cold sweat. I raise my hand. In my hand, I hold the key, my potential answer. What I've concocted is an herbal wrap of lavender, foxglove, nettle leaf, and mandrake root. The foxglove and mandrake root are highly known to be toxic. but under the right conditions, it can cause hallucinations, and for me, it will allow me to pass the veil. I lay down on my back, my fire warming the air and the colors around me, and my answer bathes in moonlight. I take a breath as I bring it to my lips and whisper into the leaves. By the will of night and by the stars, I saw the world in its absence, and in it I saw anew. I think, therefore I am. I put the wrapping into my mouth. Its bitter taste coats my entire maw in a foul, waxy glaze. I almost choke on it, hoping that this will not kill me. I manage to swallow the contents. I can already feel myself getting lighter. My head spins with a faint whisper. A low rattle echoes somewhere as I hear death's jaw close in on me. I wake, gasping as I sit up in my bed. Something is different. No air enters my lungs. The sheets do not even move when I jolt. Everything is at a standstill. I try to feel my body, my hands gliding over my chest and arms, but there is nothing. I look behind me and I see now, my body lying peacefully in a splendor of an induced death. From my chest, I can see my tether, my soul, the golden thread that connects me back to my body. I did it right. I have died, but I can still go back. I confidently step out of my bed and into the night, not needing to open the door as I pass through. What I see next I should have expected. Spirits, all around me. From a group of hairs running through the night field, souls of those building fires to keep warm and comfort. Shadows that lurk and stalk lost spirits who have lost their way. Without worry of all, I step into the night. The signs of the coyote boy I will try to find. It is said his spirit beats like a drum, or the strike of a vulture's wings as it flies towards fresh carrion from dead cattle. Wherever it may be, I will walk so I can find him. I close my eyes, take a deep breath, and let the contents of my lung fill the space. Thump. I open my eyes. He's somewhere here. I begin my walk as my tether trails behind me. I don't know how long I've been walking for. Seconds, minutes, hours, I'm not sure. I've ignored the spirits and the shadows that tempt me off the path, but none can distract me from my goal and my quest. All I can hear is the beat of the drums and the path to the coyote boy. Thump, click, 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 thump, click, click, click. I thought I lost him, or that I was being led astray. But I see something, feel something I have not felt this night. Thump, click, 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 thump, click, click, click. In the distance, closer than I think, there he stands. His stature is taller than I thought. His fur glows harvest gold and like sand under the sun. By his hand, blood flies at his whim in order as it creates new unholy creatures. His feet beats the ground as blood pulls and pulsates. As he turns to me, I can see the cavity of his soul. Empty, black, cold, his eyes no longer exist. Just the third eye that screams for release, for all to encompass and worship him. The once caring God has gone mad in the absence of his own will. Coyote boy, I call. Silence. No thumping of the drums, no waving of blood and spirits. No longer does the sound exist. I have grabbed his attention. The coyote boy looks to me. Hear my call and hear my voice beckon, I call forth. My voice cracks as it tries to fill the space. I take my steps forward, so I do not upset him. I know you are lost. Your soul has expired long ago, and I need it to be restored. Please, from the words of creation of your own designs, I want to extend my help. The coyote boy stands still. All he does is stare as his eye frantically looks around. Before I know it, he appears in front of me. I stare right into his eye as he stares back at mine. I thought I have seen everything, but the mere look of his eye and his whole being consumes my every thought, and my mind begins to break. I wince in pain, but I hold my hand up. From my palm, I command my energy to produce a single flame. From the will of my soul, I command that the spire may refill once what was lost. At these words, the coyote boy grabs my head and forces it back. I scream as I feel his claws dig into my cheeks. They seep into my muscles and into my brain. It explodes with color and visions I don't even know the meaning of. Painfully, he forces me to look at the sky. Even so, I force my head to look at him. It takes everything in me just to look back right into his eye. You will hear me as I strain, and as my thoughts become less tangible. Your soul will be restored, and you will bring peace into the world once again. With the strength that I still hold onto, I force both my hands into the cavity of the Coyote Boy's chest. The flames erupt into a rainbow, and the stars, they light him up like the sun itself, and the flames burn my hands. I scream in pain once more, and every inch of my body erupts in agony. I manage to keep my hands where they are, and the Coyote Boy fights against my will. I feel my mind regressing. I'm becoming more animalistic and desperate, but the desperation comes from the humanity I still feel. Hear my call, become whole once more. We continue to struggle, and my mind begins to break. My eyes cannot see anything except for the radiant array of flames, and my hands now only tremble, sting. I cry in agony as warm blood seeps from my eyes, and I can feel the Coyote Boy only grow stronger. Suddenly, it feels like someone pulls on the back of my shirt. I am flung backwards, my hands being violently ripped from the Coyote Boy. The flames that once filled his chest now engulf him as his head rises to the sky. The color of sunrise begins to appear as I'm rapidly pulled away. I cry out to return to him. I cannot go back. I am so close to what I needed to achieve. This could not be how it ends. I sit up. The sweat from my back clings to my shirt coldly. I look behind me, only the imprint of my body laid from the night. I look at my hands, completely black, from my fingertips to the ends of my wrist. They do not hurt, but the muscle has been atrophied and my skin has aged far beyond my ears. They shake as the trauma they endured laid faintly within the very cells of my body. It was very brave of you. I twist my head. On the other side of my room, where my rocking chair sits, a man made of smoke and ash sits. He wears a heavy white brimmed hat that sucks in the light around it. In his hand, he holds a long oar that shines lustrous silver in the light. I scramble quickly, pulling my knife out from under my pillow and point it at him. His head tilts upwards, but I see no face, only darkness. His voice is like nothing I have heard before. It is like if fire, ash, and wind could talk, breathy, commanding, yet pretty all at once. More so, I am impressed. Any other mortal cannot have done what you have just tried to accomplish. I do not say anything. I continue to hold the knife to him. He only chuckles as he sits back. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot, so to speak. I do not wish to cause harm. He stands up. His long, airy black cloak glides along the ground. What is your name? I swallow dry air as my voice cracks. What's it to you? He shrugs. Just wanted to ask. There's an uncomfortable amount of silence as he prepares his next sentence. What you just did, I could not simply just look past. Again, I have never seen a mortal do what you have done. I am perplexed. I can do that and more, I struggle to say. My throat hurts as I try to push out the words. In fact, I should know about you. How do I know you're just not a shadow here to steal my body? Then I would have done so already, he retorts. From what I saw, you and I share the same goal. The Coyote Boy needs his soul back, and fast. There are things, terrible things that will happen to this world. They will affect the living and the dead. This is something I cannot ignore. He holds out a hand. His fingers are long and bony, and his hand is gray as cigarette ash. When the time comes, you will pass it to your offspring. I lower my guard and knife. Something about my first impression has shifted. Do we have the deal? I put the knife on my bed. The uncomfortable silence fills around us. I slowly hold my hand out to his and firmly take it as much as my newly weakened hands can. Then it is a deal, which, thank you.
All right, next we have Payton Rhyner. Payton Rhyner is a senior here at UWGB studying writing and applied arts and an emphasis in editing and publishing. Most of the time she writes exclusively for herself and only shares it when it is required for class. So she's really pushing herself outside of her comfort zone for this event, which she is excited about. She hopes you enjoy her works in progress. Please welcome Payton Rhyner.
Hey guys.
So just a little preface for the story. It was written as a workshop piece for Professor Case's fiction writing class. I like to kind of challenge myself and give myself a little bit of like a prompt to fill with each of these pieces that I've been doing. So this one, I really wanted to explore a complex situation from the perspective of something or someone that doesn't quite understand it, as well as like doing it from an inhuman perspective. And I also wanted to include a fantastical element within this story because I was inspired by an author whose work we read within this class. So I'll quit stalling now, and I will read you when Danny came home. The creak of the front door wakes me from my sleep. He's home, I cheer in my mind as I rush to greet him. Danny's been gone for longer than usual, and I'm literally jumping for joy at the idea that I will finally get to see him. I'm tired of being home alone. He definitely owes me a walk after this. When I get to the door, it's not who I thought. Instead of my best friend standing in the entryway, it's my Auntie Kate, his sister, who always comes over when Danny can't make it home. Although it's not quite who I expected to see, I'm excited nonetheless. I race towards her, tail whipping, as happy barks emerge from me before I can stop them. I know they don't like it when I use my outside voice in the house, but I can't help myself right now. I'm just so excited to see someone. Oh my goodness, Ride Man, I'm so happy to see you too, she giggles as I jump up and lick her face. I know I'm not supposed to jump, or lick faces for that matter, but this is Auntie Kate we're talking about, and I'm her favorite Ride Man. She gave me the nickname 2 years ago when I was just a pup after deciding Reiter was a bit too blasé for her taste, and we have been partners in crime ever since. Are you ready to go outside? Huh? Are ya? I love it when she uses that silly little voice to talk to me. I bark in a way I hope conveys my dire need to do just that at the moment, even though the excitement of her arrival made me temporarily forget. I go out, do my business in my favorite spot, and then head over to the shed to do my regular patrol route. There's a family of bunnies who moved into a burrow under our shed, and I have to ensure I get them if they dare come out in my presence. As I walk up to the rabbit's home base, I pick up a stink on the wind. I'm not sure what it is, but it has a similar odor to the trash when Danny forgets to take it out for a little too long. It smells like rot. I follow my nose to the scent and find its source. One of the rabbits lay dead in the grass. I'm not sure what got it or why it passed, but it's been gone for a while now, judging from the state of it. I sniff at it and I'm ever so tempted to roll in it, but I know that will just land me in the bathtub, so I fight my instincts and leave it alone. Auntie Kate must have noticed my interest in this particular spot because she walks over to me. Oh my God, ew, she exclaims as she sees what I have found. Get away from that, Ride Man. That's icky. I don't think so, but what the humans say goes. We start heading back to the house, but I stop dead in my tracks at the sight of it. It's beautiful. It's majestic. Mere words cannot describe its perfection. It's the best fetching stick I've ever seen in my life. I rush over to pick it up, and bring it back to Auntie Kate. She has no choice but to play fetch with me now. This stick is too perfect to pass up. We play for a while longer, then go inside for my dinner. I get my usual kibble with a bit of canned food, and Auntie Kate slips me a few fries from the fast food she must have gotten on the way here. She refills my water bowl and makes sure I have everything I need. I know what it means when the humans do this. It means I'm going to be by myself for a while. All right, buddy, be good. I'll see you in the morning. I don't want her to go, but I know there's nothing I can do to convince her to stay. I hunker down for the night and try to get some sleep. I can't help my mind from wondering where Danny is. Usually if he's gone and Auntie Kate is going to be coming to see me, he tells me, but he didn't this time. Oh well, maybe it just slipped his mind, I think to myself before I drift off to sleep and dream about the most perfect fetch stick I have ever seen. I wake the next morning to the gentle coo of mourning doves and a soft stream of sunlight coming through the window and landing right on my bed. Danny was so smart when he put it there. He knows how much I love to sunbathe. Where is Danny? He's never been gone for this long and not taking me to Auntie Kate's or Grandma and Grandpa's house. The thought worries me, but the grumble in my tummy distracts me. Lucky for me, Auntie Kate left some extra food, so I will not be skipping the most important meal of the day. I traipse to the kitchen, weary with hunger. I devour what's left of my food and head over to my post by the window to await Danny's return. After what seems like forever, a car finally pulls into the driveway. It isn't just any car, it's my car. Danny, 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 Danny! I rush to the door, jumping up and down, trying to see through the window at the top. I begin whining from pure anticipation at seeing my best friend for the first time in so many hours. I hear his footsteps on the porch stairs, and then his key in the door, and finally, Danny! Oh, how I've missed you! I need to pee! Where have you been? My thoughts are cut short. What is that smell? That's not how my Danny smells. He smells like wood, honey, and a hint of bologna. Not like this. The smell burns my nose. It is sharp and devoid of life. It makes me take a step back and cease my greeting. What's wrong, buddy? Danny says to me. Phew, at least he still sounds like Danny. Maybe he smells the hospital on you. Auntie Kate? Why are you back? Couldn't be, or could be, can't blame him. I don't like that smell either, big guy, Danny says as he takes my head between his hands and wiggles my ears. He may not smell like my Danny, but he definitely is. Let's get you settled in, Auntie Kate says to Danny, both of whom are still lingering in the doorway. It's my house, Kate. I think I know my way around, Danny jokes. I know. I'm just worried about you, Auntie Kate replies. Worried? Why are we worried? Well, don't. I'll be fine. And hey, leave the door open. I want some fresh air in here, Danny says as he turns on his heel and finally makes his way inside. Auntie Kate follows him, and I'm just about to do the same when it hits me. Rot. My nose is filled with it. It smells like the rabbit, but 10 times worse. I turn to the door, getting ready to investigate the source, and I am met with an answer immediately. I begin barking at once. Quiet, Reiter! I hear Danny from the kitchen, but I don't stop. I hear footsteps coming my way, but I will not take my eyes off of it, just standing at our door. Reiter, that is enough. I jump at Danny as he pets the length of my back. You don't even have anything to bark at right now, he states while looking out the door, while looking right at it. Nothing to bark at? Are you blind? I can't disobey him twice, so I bring my barking down to a small whine. Oh, duh. You probably have to go outside, huh? Well, go ahead, buddy. Go potty. He says it in a tone that tells me he's proud of figuring out what the deal was, but he didn't at all. Well, I guess he isn't entirely wrong. I do have to be pretty bad, but how could I leave him with this thing at the door? I decide to go out, but quickly, in and out, barely making it off of the porch before I come back inside to protect him. This thing looks like a man in the sense that it has a body, 2 legs with feet on the ends, arms with hands, and a head, but that's where the similarities stop. It appears to be an amalgamation of tar, oil, and random debris caught within its figure. It has no face and doesn't even seem to be breathing. It does nothing. It just stands there looking at Danny and me without eyes and filling our home with that horrid smell. A growl escapes from between my lips. What's your deal, dude? Calm down. Everything is okay. But is it? Come on, he says, and walks to the kitchen expecting me to follow. I do, and so does the thing. How long do they give you? Auntie Kate asks as soon as we walk in the door. She doesn't seem to be able to see the thing either. We don't have to do this right now. I'm still here, aren't I? Danny retorts. Daniel, please, Auntie Kate says in a voice quieter than I've ever heard from her. Why dwell on it? If I only have... They're talking about human stuff that I don't understand, and with the arrival of this thing standing in the kitchen, I have other things to worry about. Ever so slowly, I creep towards it. It turns to me for a brief moment before shifting its focus back to Danny. It remains eerily still, giving no indication of its next move or even why it's there. It's just watching. I get close enough to give it a sniff. As I do, a chill sweeps over me and I'm scared. But the thing simply remains in its motionless state. I run back to Danny, tail tucked tightly between my legs. Boy, something has him spooked, Auntie Kate says, patting my head, her touch bringing a warmth that eradicates the cold. Maybe he's just mad about spending the night alone. He's not used to that, Danny says. Anyway, I'm feeling pretty tired, and I think I'm ready for a nap. I'll make sure to check in. Will you? Auntie Kate asks. Yes, Danny says with an eye roll. Promise? Auntie Kate's face suddenly becomes even more serious than it already was. Pinky, Danny replies. Okay, call if you need anything, Auntie Kate yells as she's walking out of the door. Will do, drive safe, Danny yells back. With that, the door swings shut, and Auntie Kate is gone. Finally, I can get my walk, I think excitedly. I go over to the hook and grab my leash. I know Danny won't say no because this is one of his favorite things to do too. I also just want to be away from that thing that seems to not be leaving anytime soon. I give the thing another nasty look before trotting up to Danny to give him my leash. Not today, buddy. I'm sorry, I'm just not feeling the best. What? You make me sit here by myself all day and night, then you bring this stinky thing home, and now I can't even get a walk? This is a disgrace! I hope my whine conveys all of that to him. I know, bud. I'm sorry. He turns and goes up the stairs, and I have no choice but to follow him. When we make it to his room, he lies down in bed and falls asleep almost instantly. The thing, which which followed us up here too, takes a seat at the rocking chair in the corner and just watches Danny as he sleeps. I plop myself on the end of the bed and watch it carefully while listening to Danny's breathing. It has sounded more strained, almost weak recently. I figure he's just been having bad dreams. I have those sometimes, and I always wake up out of breath. We stay like this for a long time. It watching Danny, me watching it, and Danny sleeping. Weeks have passed, and the thing has not gone away. It doesn't do anything but follow Danny and watch him. It seems like it gets closer to him each day, but it's hard to tell. Maybe I'm just imagining it because I do not trust it. It fills my nose with that horrid scent that just keeps getting worse day by day. I'm starting to think that maybe Danny can smell it too, and that's what's making him feel sick because he's not himself lately. We very rarely play fetch when I'm outside anymore, and our daily walks have ceased altogether. Danny doesn't leave the house much at all lately, and half of the time, if he does venture out, he comes back with that weird smell that he tells me is from a place called hospital. He sleeps a lot more now too. The smell must be giving him a headache. He always takes a nap when he has a headache. Today is a very bad day for headaches, or at least that's what I would have to guess. He's been sleeping all day, only getting up for about 10 minutes at a time before falling right back asleep. His phone has been ringing, but he has been too tired to answer it. He looks pale and has that tangy, sweaty smell he gets when he's not feeling well. Reiter, come here, boy. Danny calls me over suddenly, and I go to him. I love you so much, buddy. I hope you know that. You've been the best dog a guy could ask for. I nuzzle his hand in response, and he pulls me into a bear hug. I'm gonna miss you, buddy, Danny says. A tear comes into his eye, and I lick it away. It is salty on my tongue. He pulls me closer into him and strokes from my forehead to the tip of my nose over and over until he falls back asleep. I look to find the thing, and it's no longer in the chair, but standing right in front of us. It has no face, but I can tell it is taking in the scene before it. It gives me what I think is a nod before reaching out and gingerly placing its hand on Danny's forehead. Suddenly, the arms that have been holding me so tight loosen. My heart knows it before my head does. Danny is gone. I let out a remorseful howl into the night that falls only on the ears of the thing. I lie there with him, even though he is gone. There's not much else I can do. His phone has been ringing nonstop, but there's no one here to answer it, only me and it. I snuggle into Danny harder and cannot hold back a mournful whine that will not cease, hoping that if I want it bad enough, he'll come back. The thing had walked out of the room a while ago, and I do not know if it is gone for good or if it's just giving us a moment alone. Either way, I'm grateful it's gone. After a while, the phone stops ringing, and I fall asleep wrapped in Danny's arms one last time. Oh, Danny. I hear Auntie Kate sobs before I see her. I can't even muster a tail wag. Right, man, come here, you sweet boy, she says to me. I hesitate to leave my spot next to Danny, but I know eventually I must. I crawl off the bed and press myself into her waiting embrace as hard as I can. She makes some calls, and suddenly there are more people at her home. Some of these people must be from hospital because they have the same sharp smell that Danny would bring home sometimes. I watch as they take Danny away. I want to bark at them to leave him alone, but I know it would be no good. That isn't Danny anymore anyway. A good amount of time passes, and all the strange new people leave, and it's just me and Auntie Kate once more. All right, Ride Man, I think I have everything I need for you tonight. We'll come back for the rest, but it's time to go now, she says to me. Time to go home now, she says to me. But I am home, I think to myself. I know I don't have a choice, so when she puts on my leash and leads me to her car, I do not resist. Normally, when I get to go on trips with Auntie Kate for the day, I'm excited, but I know this is not the same. This is more final than that. There is no Danny to come home to this time. As we pull out of the driveway, I look back at the house one more time and see two figures on the porch. One of them is the thing, still and emotionless as always. Next to him stands Danny. He's paler than ever, and I can see through him to what is behind where he stands, but he is there. He's wearing a sad smile and waving goodbye to me. I howl to him one last time before the thing rests a hand on its shoulder and they both dissolve into the night. Thanks.
All right, our last reader tonight is Professor Tracy Fernandez Rysavy, who is a teaching professor in English literature, creative writing, and women's gender and sexuality studies at UWGB. This is her 8th year of teaching at a UWGB campus, but for many years before that, she taught the occasional college writing course for fun, as well as online and in-person workshops on writing genre fiction. Prior to becoming a full-time UW professor, she was the editor-in-chief of the Green American magazine, the flagship publication of a nonpartisan nonprofit working on social justice, environmental sustainability, and economic action for a better world. Because she decided she wants to try out as many career avenues as possible throughout her life, she also wrote 8 romantic suspense novels for Harlequin and Kensington Zebra, though her favorite part of romance writing was teaching writing workshops. After deciding that facing a blank page every day for the rest of her life wasn't her happy place, she said yes when an acquaintance randomly asked her to edit for Entangled Publishing. So she spent 5 years editing romance novels as a senior editor there. You know them as the publisher of Rebecca Yarros' The Fourth Wing. This whole journey led her to realize that what she really wanted to do was teach full-time, so here she is. Her biggest brushes with fame during her nonprofit journalism career were writing a regular column for a now defunct Martha Stewart magazine called Whole Living, and losing her mind to an embarrassing extent when she ran into Alice Walker, author of The Color Purple, in a bathroom at a work conference. Her biggest brushes with fame as a romance writer were chatting with Nora Roberts in an elevator, meeting the guy who played Tony DeMira on Days of Our Lives, and getting a Facebook friend request from one of her cover models, Jeff Marcelletta, who played one of the Hillside Stranglers in a Lifetime movie and starred in the 2017 Lifetime film Sinister Minister. Please welcome Professor Rysavy.
So all of that was just to say, if you're expecting literary greatness, don't. I'm basically the Alyssa Liu of the publishing world, if you're familiar with the Olympics, the figure skating, because I did, once I got published, I didn't really care if I got published again. If I write, it's because I want to write. And I haven't touched this file in so long that it was on a defunct, dead laptop, and I had to have my husband resurrected because he has an IIT degree. I have done a fast revision, but I'm not sure it's not destined as kindling for our fireplace, and the fireplace is gas, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to try. So this is part of a novel called Everyday Rebellions, which I've got maybe 5 chapters. It begins as my heroine, Asa Escobar, is getting ready for her Washington, D.C. wedding to her longtime fiance, William Worthington Weatherby III, storied Southern family. Her father, who may or may not be based on one of my in-laws, is an obnoxious, shouty, overbearing man, and her mother is the peacemaker of the family, also not my mother or my father. Asa has tried to be the perfect daughter, also not me, but she's having cold feet, and making matters worse is that an old family friend and her high school arch nemesis Gabriel is also there, because even though it makes my inner feminist want to curl up and die, I love an enemies to lovers story. So apologies to any WGSS students in the audience. We must never speak of this again. So this is an excerpt from the first chapter, kind of middle though, of Everyday Rebellions, and it's the result of a challenge I had with my critique group to work in a runaway bride scene. So this is my take on the runaway bride scene. As the photographer finished up the pre-wedding photos of my bridesmaids and me in the church, I automatically started for the exit. I wanted to see William just once, bad luck be damned. I really needed someone to tell me it was going to be all right, that marrying him was going to be, if not a fairy tale, at least a good, solid decision, one that would make me safe, warm, happy, one that would get me out of my father's house. Oh, where had that thought come from? Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, I have to stop thinking like this. Instinctively, I reached up to tangle my fingers in my hair, though I stopped myself at that critical moment before I ruined the expensive upsweeper my hands got irretrievably stuck in it. I blinked the thought away and whirled toward the exit, batting down the serrated tulle layers of my gown's bell skirt as they wafted upward. I probably looked like a very festive jellyfish. Weaving around the small groups of early guests, family members, of course, and miscellaneous people involved in the ceremony, I responded on autopilot to the smiles and good wishes as they greeted me. Basking in the glow of my beautiful brightness, my heels whirled along the white vinyl runner, too loud, too fast, as a camera flash exploded nearby in a blaze of light, indicating that someone had just gotten a terrific candid shot of me looking like a freaked out runaway bride. Except Asa Lorena Escobar would never do anything as tacky as bolted from her own wedding, because Asa Lorena Escobar is so perfect she even makes herself want to scream. Resolving to stop thinking about myself in the third person if I could help it, I shoved open the building's glass double doors and burst outside in a puff of silk and tulle. I scanned the wide concrete stairs in the busy street in front of it, searching for William, or at least his silver Lexus. What I was gonna say to my soon-to-be groom, I had no clue, but anything had to be better than marking time inside while abject panic ran its sharp claws along the insides of my ribcage. "William," I murmured under my breath, "where are you?" I heard a chorus of "Que pasos?" to my left and knew my too expressive face was telegraphing my unease to my mother and her sisters. I gave them an "I'm perfectly fine" wave and bolted back inside, down the hall to the left where my dressing room was located. I gripped the doorway with both hands and propelled myself into the room, kicking off my shoes and making a mental note of the things I'd left in the room. Makeup bags, spare nylons, nail polish, hairspray. Setting down my bouquet, I reached for a can that had the holding consistency of super glue and pumped a cloud of it around my head, frantically trying to cement it down a stray brown curl that I noticed had sprung out near my temple. With my free hand, I searched through the makeup bag for the one flawless rose lipstick I'd thrown into it that morning. And then I'd stopped. What am I doing? I asked my reflection, lifting my hand to run my finger against the mirror glass, down my cheek, down the side of my perfect white gown. Suddenly exhausted, I sank into the crowd, causing my gown to poof out like a souffle. Perfect day, perfect bride. I couldn't do it. Just for a moment, my level-headed brain really wished for the grand technicolor dream of an MGM epic love I was giving up. But then I thought of William and it made me smile. He was sweet and he was my friend. We'd be okay. I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror and wished that Senor Bustillo and his camera were there. It would have made a nice candid shot. And then, as the musicians had promised, the loudspeaker in my dressing room came on and I could hear the opening notes of Canon in D playing on the strings through it, which meant my bridesmaids had started down the aisle. Fortunately, there were 10 of them, given that I'd had to ask all of my girl cousins so my tias would continue to speak to my mother. So it would be a while before the trumpet voluntary piece began, before I straightened my spine and moved my shoulders back, allowing my shawl to slip off my shoulders and fall to the floor. Beautiful day. With a reassuring smile at the bride in the mirror, I turned and walked out the door, and then I had to chop a bit here so I didn't go on and on for too long, so we're now to church. My father stepped forward, looking gallant in his tux, and offered me his elbow. I gripped my exquisite calla lilies, took my smiling father's arm, and took my first step onto the pedal-strewn white runner. Every pew in the enormous building was full of relatives and friends. They all stood as I entered in the big brown amoeba that was my family's side as I marched, all in concert. Every so often, a hand would reach out to touch me as the entire familia gave their blessing. And there was William, my William. We'd have so much fun together. He still looked a little pale and shaky, but after all, this was a big step we were taking, and he'd always hated being the center of attention. The wedding was perfect. Everyone remembered their roles. I didn't trip over my dress, and the readings and music went like clockwork. It was perfect. Now we just had to say our vows, and our new life would begin. I couldn't wait. I, Wellington Worthington Weatherby III, prompted Father Fabiano. William turned to me, took my hands. "Oh, Asa, I can't believe we're here." I blinked, wondering if William had decided to surprise me by writing his own vows instead of going with the traditional version we planned. But that had been my addition to the wedding. I hated it when people made up their own vows. Sure, there were exceptions, but most of the time, the happy couple just sounded like they were reading Hallmark Just How I Feel cards. And I ended up alternating between feeling embarrassed for them and fighting off sugar shock. William needed that. Sorry, cotton mouth. In fact, we cracked ourselves up one night making up shockingly bad mock vows along the lines of, "Asa, I just want to say thank you for this special day. I really think you're kind of neat from the top of your big hair to the bottom of your little feet." A little warning bell belatedly went off in my head as I considered his words because I knew it wasn't like him to not respect something that was important to me. I looked at him, really looked, and noticed that his large brown eyes seemed a little watery. "I don't know how to say this to you." He paused, swallowed, and began again. "Something happened. Just a few days ago, I knew I had to stop this." He paused and waved one hand in the air in a circular motion as if searching for the right word. This denial I was in. "I wanted to tell you outside before we got this far, but your family." I nodded dumbly. I knew my family. "I decided that you deserve the truth, right here in front of your family." He squared his shoulders and flattened his lips, his expression all resolution and deadly do-rightness, my brave little toaster. "Asa, I'm gay." The entire congregation inhaled all at once and then grew so silent the church echoed with it. "I love you," he said, "so much, and I wanted to have a family with you, but I realize now that marrying you would be selfish of me and would be fair, so I had to tell you." The big brown amoeba started to buzz. I couldn't feel my hands. "Asa, Baby, I'm sorry. I wish so bad I didn't have to hurt you, but I kissed this guy in a bar a few months ago and there was this episode of Kelly Clarkson. Anyway, it made me realize I'd do it again because I'd be living a lie. Gay? Cat? I heard my father's voice boom across the growing den. William, I tried to say, but no noise came out of my mouth. He looked so sad as he tilted his head toward me to hear me better. I felt like I was falling down a tunnel like Alice leaving her sister's backyard for a new world. I'm completely mad. Sweetheart? William? I tried again, and this time I was rewarded with a noise that resembled a ribbit more than it did my fiance's name. What is it, Asa? I glanced toward my father, who was already pushing through the crowd toward us. I shoved William with all my might toward the rear of the church. Run.
All right, so we have a little bit of time, and our customary approach at the end of working title is to ask our lovely readers questions. Before we do that, though, let's give them all a giant round of applause. No, it's very scary to get up in front of people and read your own work, so very awesome job, all of you. All right, who has questions out here in the audience? I will come to you and bring the microphone. And they can be for any specific person or for everybody, totally up to you.
Hello, I have two questions. The first one is for Payton. What dog is Reiter? What dog is he? Like when you were writing it, which dog was pictured in your brain? Because I was picturing a little like Bernese mountain dog reading this. So which one were you picturing?
Yeah, I definitely was kind of envisioning kind of like just mutt, shelter dog kind of thing. Definitely like fluffy though. That was kind of it. I did actually name the dog after one of my dogs, who is a little like teddy bear Shih Tzu mix, but that was not what this dog was supposed to be.
And the second question is for Professor Rysavy. Can we please make this a telenovela right now? I would watch it. Also, the drama was amazing. I was seated watching it. Everyone did well.
You find me a producer on it.
Oh, trust me, I'll find you one.
All right, what other questions we got out of here? It's like we've got a few more, but don't worry, we can come back to you probably.
Squashua, what compelled you to combine fantasy and westerns?
So the reason why I decided to go with a Western fantasy is because I've always kind of grown up liking cowboys, and I've also grown up really liking fantasy. And when you look at a lot of the stories, specifically from the West, and with the history upon it too, I'm just very surprised overall that there's not a lot more like Western fantasy stories that are explored outside of like sci-fi Westerns and or dark Westerns. And so I kind of wanted to pick apart and put back together just some of those rulings and kind of mix together those two, because again, I just feel like there's a lot of parts of that that aren't explored more, and I think people need to explore it more often.
I think we can turn on that microphone in front of Ellie if you all want to pass it around to that. Yeah, I think that one's broken. Are you alive?
Oh, it is. Yippee, we have a mic, guys. It's alive.
I have a question for two separate individuals. The first question is for Ellie. I noticed your story, the chapter that you read deals with piracy. Do you take an interest in like the history of like piracy and stuff like that? Is that something that like you're intrigued by?
I do a little bit whenever the topic of pirates comes up at all. I do get very interested in it. I don't feel like I incorporate it too much, like the actual history of it in my stories. I kind of go more on what media has done over the years, but I do like watching pirate stuff when I can.
Thank you. And Josh, kind of going off Jeremy's question, what's your favorite aspect of like Westerns or like the American Wild West?
So what kind of drew me into that is not only cowboys, because I like the aspect of people riding free being lawless and making kind of a path of their own. Sorry, what was the second part of your question?
I think it was, I guess, I think it was just that, what's your favorite aspect, I guess, and then, to kind of add on to that, what, like, historical misconceptions about Westerns or, like, the American West, do you like to, like, refute in your work?
So yeah, kind of going along with like cowboys, I also just like a lot of the animals and the plants that come from the West. A lot of them are very hardy, very sharp. There's not a whole lot of soft edges in the West because you kind of sort of need to be tough. But another big misconception that I think a lot of people take is the Americanization of the West, because truly the West and the South never started off as these big, oh, this is part of America, this is part of our history and culture. The Wild West was founded by a lot of indigenous lands, especially by people who came from Mexico and people who have already lived in America. And the Wild West and its history is also very queer. A lot of cowboys built a lot of brotherhoods, and these brotherhoods also consisted of gay men and gay couples. And I think this part of history isn't really talked about, and it's kind of overshadowed, especially with the Europeans coming in and settling in those lands and getting rid of a lot of that history, and also kind of condemning a lot of the gay culture at the time too. So this is definitely something that I also want to explore further within these stories too.
Yeah, and I thank you for doing that in your work. I think that's the most important thing about writing about like the historical West.
Time for a couple more questions, I think. I'd love a question that everybody could answer if anyone has any. I always have like a million questions, but I guess these people are probably tired of answering my questions. Yeah.
This question is for anyone who wants to answer. I think we've heard a variety of genre fiction tonight, I would say, whether it be horror or fantasy or Western, or kind of a mix between those, romance, right? Kind of with all these stories. I guess my question then is, what is the continued appeal in your mind of genre fiction, right? When we see like, obviously we see this kind of all over pop culture, be science fiction or fantasy or whatever. Why do people feel like to go to other worlds to get lost in stories? Or these fantastical elements? Interpret it however you want, but I think that we've seen that throughout all of your work tonight. So, whoever wants to go first, I guess.
Yeah, so I'm speaking from the perspective of a cheesy romance girly. Like that's typically what I write, typically what I read. But I typically think it's just because I mean romances are all kind of cookie cutter, you know, that they're like gonna meet somehow and then get to know each other, whatever, fall in love, break up, and then get back together in some like big grand gesture. And so I think that there's a certain level of like when I pick up a romance book, I just like I know that that's what I'm gonna get. I know that I'm gonna enjoy it. Obviously, like as a writing major, I think we can all attest to the fact that we do a lot of like serious reading for our classes and just like in general. So sometimes it's nice to know that I can pick up that genre and just like enjoy it and it'll be light and it'll be fluffy. But other times like I want to think more, so I pick up like a mystery or a horror novel. And I think it's genres are important just so you kind of know what you're getting into before you commit to reading the whole book. So.
I don't know if I'm gonna be sort of like beating around the bush with this question because I'm bad at answering questions sometimes. But for me, I love delving into fantasy because I love a lot of the concepts that people have to come up with. I think the human mind can create some really beautiful and wondrous things. And with like Westerns too, again, I love cowboys. I love the Big West and the yeehaws. But in terms of genre specific things, there's a lot of people who like a lot of different things. And even though my taste might not appeal to another person's, I think that's what makes a lot of writing very unique because everybody has something that they want to write and that they want to come up with. And again, even though I may not like it or it may not to be my taste, it's still beautiful because it was created by a human mind. And this is going to be very polarizing, but fuck AI.
Amen.
I agree. I second that. So I think the reason that genre fiction is having its big moment right now is because the world kind of sucks a little bit. At least the news does. And I think people want that escape. One thing that really interests me about horror in particular is just how like it kind of explores like our societal fears and like what we're like going through and afraid of at the same time, but it does it in like a roundabout way to where we can like look at these problems that are plaguing society, but still have the comfort of being like, okay, this is in a book and it's taking place on a different planet or whatever. And yeah, for me, I get a lot of catharsis out of horror in particular.
Kind of going off of what Abby was talking about, our world and reality, it can suck. So I think regardless of any genre, you're still being pulled into a completely different world, even if sometimes maybe it is similar, like in realistic fiction or anything like that. But you're just being pulled into a different world, and you can escape the reality that you're in for a while. And I feel like as a fantasy writer, especially, like there's really no limit to what that world can look like. You can put in any sort of magical element and like no one can really question it because like that's your world. And again, that can go for like any genre pretty much.
So I like genres in short fiction specifically because I feel like you can like discuss real world things a lot more when you're talking about something that's a little bit more abstract and not totally like on the nose. Like, I know that we had Payton's about grief. Like grief is a lot easier to explore to me through like a fantasy setting or through like some sort of abstract fiction way than it would be to just talk about grief directly. Or like for certain, like for romance novels or like romance short stories as well, it's easier to talk about specific parts of being in a relationship or what that could look like when it is fictionalized and not actually like something that you've been through, because then you can kind of break it apart and see how it works.
Well, just briefly, I think it's better to hear from you all, but I think genre fiction, it's not that every genre fiction novel ends happily, but there's often the promise that the good guys are going to win, the detective's going to solve the mystery, the couple's going to live happily ever after, and there's just joy in that. In a literary novel, you never know what you're going to get and how much you're going to ugly cry. But also, sometimes I just want a novel that speeds along, that catches me, that when I'm stressed out, you know, I know that plot's going to move like a film. And it's like a hook at the end of every chapter, you get hooked to the edge of your seat, and it's not, and sometimes I just want a literary novel that I can really sink into and read carefully and read that beautiful language. But a genre fiction novel and one that's really well written is just always going to be like, just a joy to read, and it's going to catch me usually, and it's just a lot of fun with the pacing and everything. So.
Thank you, that was awesome. Any other last questions? We have time for maybe one more. Anyone that didn't ask one yet? I don't know how to pick between you. Jonas has, Dr. Gutsy has a silly one, yeah.
Abby, why did you set your novel in the great state of Minnesota? And everyone else, when can we see your Minnesota novels?
So I am originally from California. I moved here in 2022. And it's been really interesting seeing the Midwest from an outsider's perspective. I set it in Minnesota because setting it in Wisconsin felt a little bit too on the nose, to keep it brief. But I specifically wanted to explore the Midwest in particular because I feel like there's a lot to be said about what it's like to grow up in an environment that's so focused, especially at the time, on masculinity, things like drinking, hunting, like there's not much to do here. And I thought that that was a really interesting setting and posed a lot of, I feel like questions for me as the writer, but also for the readers. So.
To answer the silly part of the question, mine was set in Minnesota. I just didn't mention it, so. Pulling a J.K. Rowling, adding things after the fact. Don't cancel me, please.
So my world is set in a land that I have not named yet, but it is set in 3 different quadrants, which is the Westlands, the Northlands, and then the South Border, which all kind of incorporate my big 3 kind of Western things. So we have the Wild West, the Midwest, and then the South. And those are all different things that I potentially want to explore with all different characters. And if I'm going for a real world story, so far I've thought about setting a story in Illinois where 2 teenage boys stumble across a beetle larvae that has accidentally attained nirvana and opens a portal.
My favorite story.
While I am not opposed to making a story in Minnesota, I mean, I don't have a name for the realm that I've created yet, so maybe Minnesota can just be a placeholder for that for now. Who knows?
You'll get writing about Minnesota when I spend more time in Minnesota. I don't feel like I've spent enough time in to do it justice.
All right, any more Minnesota comments? I don't want to cut anyone off. Okay, thanks everyone so much. Let's please give our readers a last round of applause. Really nice job, all of you. Audience members, thank you so much for coming. If you are interested in reading at next semester's working title, please check in with me or with Dr. Williams, and we would love to feature your work, and thank you all for your thoughtful questions. Great to see you all. You can talk to our readers informally even after this is over. So, hey, thanks everybody.